In the last video, we made our PBR rendering material here with Shadergraph. And while this is nice, I want to do some animation with it. However, while using the texture is nice, and that's what I focused on for our 3 HLSL materials, I want to highlight one of the nice effects of Shadergraph, which is using noise. So I'm actually going to make a new Shadergraph. This one is going to be a lit Shadergraph, and we're going to call it animated SG. And I'm also going to create a material from it. And I'm just going to make a duplicate of this sphere, move it down a little bit, and apply our material to it, and then open it up. And we're going to do some animation in here. So first, what we're going to do is we're going to use a noise texture. In this case, we're going to use a gradient noise. Now, what we want to do is we want to take this gradient noise, and right now it goes between 0 and 1 at the lowest and the brightest. We're going to take this and we're going to remap it. We're going to take it as the in, and we're going to take it from 0 to 1 as the in min max, and the out min max we're going to do between 0 and, let's say, 10. The reason why is because we're going to then feed this into a sine. And that creates these wavy effects. As I increase the min and max value here, you can see it changes how dense our layers of waves are. So I'm going to leave this as 10. Well, this is nice. We want to actually animate this. So we're going to put this into an add node. This, we're going to create a float that is going to be noise wave speed. This will just default to 1 for now. We're going to put this into a multiply node. This we're going to multiply by time. So we're multiplying and controlling the speed of our time variable. We're adding this to our remap node. Now, if we feed this into our sine value here, what you'll see is that we get these waves scrolling across. I'm also just going to create another float for our noise scale. We're going to say this is defaulted to 10, so it doesn't change anything here. So now we have these values. If we just plug this into our base color, we go over to our scene view here. Now we can look at our material, and it has this kind of pulsating effect to it. And if I increase our noise wave speed, you can see it gets faster. If I set it to 10, it gets really fast. And I can also increase the scale. So that's a very basic way of animating this. So I'm going to default this to actually 3 for our effect. And this is our starting point. So now what we want to do is we want to take all this. We're just going to move it a little bit. And we're going to use this for a few different things. So since this is a sine node, it's going to by default map between -1 and 1. We want to change that to be between 0 and 1, just because we might run into some issues with having negative numbers for some things. So now I'm going to actually take this value and I'm going to put it into the metallic and smoothness properties. So if I save that, we go over to our material here. Now you can see it kind of looks like it's this flowing metallic-y material here. So that's a neat effect, but we want a little bit of color. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to create a color property. I'm going to call this emission color. I'm going to set this to HDR, and let's make it kind of a purpley color. We'll set that to 2. We're going to take this here, and we're going to put it into a oh, not the B. Sorry, we want it into the A of a power node. Let's set this to 5, so that way it's only going to show where it's really bright. Then we can multiply these two by each other. We can set this as the emission. Now our material should look emissive with these purpley pink effects where we want, and we can change the color. We can increase the intensity if we want to. So now we have those. However, the black regions are not quite looking right, and that's because we have negative numbers for our color. So I'm just going to directly set our base color to black here. So this effect is just overlaid on top of it. So now you can see the pink color a little bit more clearly. And what I want to do is I want to actually take one of these and I'm going to flip it. So I'm going to take a 1 minus of it. So wherever it's high in this one, it's going to be low in this one. I'm actually going to set that as the smoothness. So basically we have opposite smoothness and metallic all the time. Now I'll save that. And you'll see our material now has some more visible edges where these are happening. However, we're just setting the smoothness and metallic. We're not actually affecting the normals, so things still don't quite look right. So in one of the earlier videos in this series, I talked about a normal from height. This is one of those places where you'd use it, because since this isn't a texture and it's generated on the fly, we can't actually use a normal map for this. If you wanted a set normal map that was just applied underneath everything, you could. But if you want it to actually match the texture, then this is where a normal from height node is useful. So we'll feed it in the value from our remap, and I'm just going to make this a little bit stronger. I'm going to put that into our tangent space normal. Now I can save this again. What you'll see is that now we have these normals being applied. Let me increase the scale a little bit, and you can see that now there's these normals happening here. But if I zoom in, what you'll see is that, let me slow down. The normals, you can tell they're a little bit pixelated when you look at them. That is the unfortunate result of the normal from height having to use a derivative. There's no real way around it. In this case, you could create your own function to do it, but using the normal from height by taking a derivative of a kernel, you're going to end up with pixelation because it has to cut the resolution in half to do the derivative. So that's just an unfortunate reality of it. It looks, the pixelation basically always stays the same because it uses screen space pixels to do that calculation. So as you get closer, the pixelation gets smaller, but as you get further away, it gets larger. So that's just kind of a unfortunate reality of doing this. But the last thing I'm going to add into our material here is we are going to add some tiling and offset. And we're going to do that with time. So we're going to take a tiling and offset node. And before, when we did tiling and offset, we did it as a property of the texture. This time we're going to do it directly in the shader. So I'm going to add a vector 2. And we're going to add a noise move speed value here. And we're going to multiply this by time. We're going to set this as the offset. So if I set this to 0.1, say 0.1, we feed this in here. Now you'll see our texture is scrolling in a direction. So since it's 0.1, it's going to scroll this way. And if we save that and we go back here, now our texture is actually scrolling. You might want it to be much slower, but now our texture scrolls a little bit as well as has the oscillations in it. And that's pretty much the basics of creating an animated material. There's so much more you can do with this. However, like I said last video with noise textures, you do need to be careful with using them, in that if you have a ton of noise, and ideally you would layer multiple noise layers over top of each other. You can end up bogging down your GPU because noise is expensive. One more thing I'll just quickly show before I stop is I'm also going to feed this into the other two noise types. I'm not going to make the scale a value for these, but I'm just gonna show you what it would look like if you use the other noise textures for this. So if we use simple noise, we get an effect that instead looks more like this. So it's a bit more blocky per se, but it has a more cloud-like fall off is what I'll say about simple noise. Gradient noise is good for creating those loops and everything. We could even posterize them if we want. And then for Voronoi, if we take this and we put it in, you'll see they'll look a lot more like bubbles. So now if I go back, you'll see that we have these different bubble effects here. So Voronoi is good for creating these kinds of bubbles. Simple noise is good for more clouds, and gradient noise is good for kind of loops and threads kind of thing. Even though I said this would be the last thing I'd show, I'm just going to quickly show you what I was talking about when I said posterizing earlier, just because it might not be 100% clear if you're new to Shadergraph. So if instead, before I stick it into our sign here, or actually after the sign, I stick it into a posterize node, what this does is it basically clamps the value into discrete steps. So there are only, say, if I put 2, there's only black and this kind of gray color here. If I set it to 3, it basically increases however many steps there can be in our material. So if I set it to 5, don't know how much of a difference this will actually make when we look at it. But you can see it's a little bit more blocky, and there's also a lot more pixelation when I do this. That's kind of just from posterizing it. You can see where the layer lines actually end up being. If you're doing something like toon shading, you can do posterization. If I say bring the noise scale down to 5, it creates a much more blocky effect. So using posterize can be another good thing with animation, depending on the effect you're going for. I typically don't use it, but you can use it for a bunch of different things if you want to. So that's the basics of animating with Shadergraph. In the last video, I'm going to show you how to make a brick texture and use some parallax occlusion mapping to mimic depth much more accurately than using a normal map.